Good morning, social environment. This morning I'm trying a new microphone. It's a Blue Yeti. I don't know exactly what that means, but it makes me happy. Also, I'm using the same camera, but I had to figure out, I got a new camera, but it makes me look like a great big distortion. But in any case, while everyone's getting on, I'm going to save announcements for the end of class. This is an exciting one. This is actually, of all the particular topics that I cover, this may be my favorite one. What is that? Anything that has to do with, financial freedom is something that I'm really very interested in. I don't know what that was, a peanut shell, I think. And so this one is near and dear to me because, as you know, from having read Dear Mama, by the way, your papers on Dear Mama have been really fantastic. I think that you've come away with some incredible knowledge that you've been able to use. The stuff you've written up has just been fantastic. Emily, good morning. How are you? Yeah, let's see a roll call so I can see who's here. Yesterday we had 2 people and 4 people came in. There you go. Hey, Laura, is this a little bit better? The audio. Emily, hey, what's happening? Raul, good to see you this morning. Andrea, who's ARF? Laura Ramos, good morning, everybody. Like I was saying, that this to me is perhaps the most important topic that we have all semester. It's more about life skills than it is anything else. However, I do find it to be the one that's most important. As I was saying, as you know from Sarah, Alejandro, Rosa, man, you guys are just making me so happy this morning. Like you know from my background, I didn't come from anything extremely wealthy or anything like that. Angelica, Laura, good morning. Good morning to both of you. And really had to climb out of a huge hole. My mother didn't know anything. Raina, okay, thank you. My mother didn't know anything about investing, and for the most part, we lived on a shoestring. You know, Mama Green, she was a cook at Wade High School, so her income was minimum wage. Irma Jean, back then nurses didn't get paid a whole lot, so Irma Jean, you know, she made more minimum wage, but she wasn't making a ton of money, and my mother wasn't making a whole lot of money as well. So when it came to like building for a financial future, we just didn't know anything. And I had a penchant for picking stocks and all those kind of things, but I didn't know how to do it. Back then, it used to be $60, $70, $80 just to buy, just to make a trade. So it was a lot different than it is today, where you can hop on, you know, Robinhood or SoFi or Stash and do it for free. But free doesn't always mean the best, by the way. So when I take a look at building your financial house, to me, this is near and dear. This is the one to me that is so very important because, man, not having control of your own financial life, that really makes you, you know, prey to somebody else's decision making. And I don't know if I'm a big fan of having anyone make decisions for me. I've never been the type. And so this one is really very important. At the end of class, hey Nicole, good morning. Hello Isbay. At the end of class, I'm going to make an announcement about final exams. You know, with the coronavirus, I would like to meet people, and I know with my social problems class, or human behavior class that I have tonight, we have actually discussed meeting over at Lime, the restaurant over at Dadeland, at 3 o'clock on Friday. But I'm really worried about having a lot of people there at the same time. But I'd like to invite you, I think maybe Friday at 5 if you want to come. So rather than having one large group, break it down into a couple groups. And trust me, I can eat, so I won't have any problem eating with the 3 o'clock group and the 5 o'clock group. Any of you, just let me know if you're interested in meeting up, and I'll talk to the managers to make sure that we get the back room so we can spread out but yet still get to meet each other and things like that. And one of the things that we had talked about in my ethnicity class last night, and you all are more than welcome to join in. We're going to start a 50-day program group with that particular group. And also, we talked about creating a group, a club in which God, I have itches all over the place. A club in which we actually pursue our own entrepreneurship, support one another, and try to create our own businesses, even if we have jobs elsewhere. Shoot, Sarah. Well, we'll find another time. I was going to do it Saturday, but I forgot it was the 4th of July, and you know, people do stuff with their families, so I chose not to do it on the Saturday, but the 5th, I'm sorry, Friday the 3rd will actually work. But if you want to join this entrepreneurial group, we're creating a 50-day challenge on WhatsApp, and then we're also going to create, and I know some of you are interested in that. I'm actually kicking mine off tomorrow. I like doing things on the 1st, and July 1st is tomorrow, which I can't believe half the year is already gone. And then we want to create a group for entrepreneurship, and there'll be stuff about how to build your money. Yeah. Friday meeting is optional. It's no problem. It's just something so we can all meet. That's okay, Sarah. No problem. And so I'd really like to be a part of your long-term life, and some of the things that I'm really very interested in is making sure that you all have financial independence. Man, everyone has to work. Well, that's a good thing, I suppose, when the unemployment rate is skyrocketing right now. Laura, I'm glad you have a job. And if it's a restaurant, I'd like to go. Terry. Rose, good morning. Good morning. So, anyhow, if you're interested in that, hit me up at Shawn.hopeworks@gmail.com. Again, I'll write that down. Good morning, Ashley. Shawn.hopeworks and I know you have it, but I'm going to put it down anyhow, .com. And this really is for, and I'm grading papers, so I know some of you have received the papers. I have to say they're pretty much terrific, especially since we didn't have face-to-face, and I didn't really have a chance to explain everything to you. But nonetheless, I see that for the most part, you really did focus on organization and good content. I'd grade it down a little bit if there was no concepts in there, and if you just held conversations and opinion. But I am working through them. I didn't realize I had 390 papers sitting there in files that I had to grade. So I graded 120 yesterday. I plan on grading another 100 today or so, and then tomorrow, and then Thursday I'll grade the rest. And we'll talk about the final exam here at the end. But the reason why I find this to be perhaps the most important topic is that your future is really unknown. In the past, for example, when my mother came up, she was born in 1939, so when she came up, her parents had, lived through the Depression, and so for them, a major goal was to get a job that you could keep for life. And, hey Daniela, good morning. So they wanted a job that they could keep for life, and in doing so, they would have financial stability. And back then, when you work someplace, for example, my mother, she worked for the Medical College of Ohio in Toledo, and she was a fantastic nurse. And at that time, they paid into, hey Jess, good morning. Okay, that's fine, I understand, no problem. So what they did is they paid into what was called PERS, P-E-R-S, and that's how they set up their retirement. But PERS was just simply a savings account. It didn't have much to do in terms of growth and investing. And when she retired, that was it. Hey, Isabella, good morning. The issue back then was, quite simply, is that no one was really taught how to grow anything. They were taught that if you work for somebody else, do it for life, you have your stability, then you're going to have a little bit of a pension when you come out. Well, your generation is very unlikely to have a pension. From what I understand, only 10% of the companies in the United States now have a pension. And if that company goes bankrupt, they wipe the pension right off their books so that they don't have to pay it out, bankruptcy. So even if you do have a pension, if the company goes under, then you don't have your retirement. And since you all are essentially the age of my daughters, I'm assuming you're between 18 and 25, right in that range. I have a 20-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old daughter, and my greatest concern is what happens when I'm not here, because I'm not going to be here forever. I'm not sure I want to be here forever, but I know that I want to make sure that they have, financial freedom and wherewithal when they get older. But I take a look at your education, what has happened in terms of what you've learned. And I know that when I went through school, remember I went through an elite private school in which I was never one day introduced to how to save, how to build a financial home, how to invest either in mutual funds or in stocks. I knew nothing. I didn't know the value of life insurance. I knew nothing. So my mother actually got ripped off. Someone was selling her a life insurance policy in 1987, and for $25 a month, she was able to get a $10,000 whole life policy in which every year she got a little bit of cash. So when she died, there was $12,000 worth of value on the life insurance. And for the same $25, had she just bought a 30-year term policy, I'm not saying that I wanted my mother to pass away, but when she did pass away, I would have inherited $250,000 instead of 12. So a lot of times what we find is there's a lot of unscrupulous people out there who will take it to you so they can make a commission, so they can make some income, and in the meantime, they leave you dry. They leave you sitting there wondering what the heck happened. So what I'm going to do here today, and I'm going to make a formal video this week, and I'll probably email it to you through the course structure and make a couple of announcements along the way. However, and I hope you all have subscribed, because I'm going to miss you all. I'm not even lying. I love when the names on the chat board light up, and I love when you send your papers. And I just want to thank you, by the way, as a side note, for all the kind words that you've said in private emails and on WhatsApp and things like that. It inspires me to keep going, and I do appreciate those words. But if we take a look at a financial house, and we're constructing a financial home, right? I do believe that you have not just the ability, but you have the right to be able to construct a financial house so that you never have to be dependent upon anybody else. So that if you get married later or you're in a relationship later, you can stand on your own. So instead of finding yourself in some kind of relationship where you're exploited, you're always independent. And if we tie this into a discussion on social environment, when we take a look at the environment, all the major institutions, right? How the economic institution, education institution, the political institution, how they all work together. One thing that is for sure, and you notice this, and you noted it in your Escobar papers. What you noted was, and it was correct, is that the wealthy have a lot of control over the labor market, over business, and how you get to live on a day-to-day basis. So when you were looking at issues like narco-terrorism, narco-drugs, drug trafficking, when you're looking at violence, when you're looking at Pablo Escobar, corruption, all those different things that you wrote about, really the underlying force is that nobody could stand on their own. So the poor and middle class typically are at the whims and the vicissitudes of what the wealthy have in store for them, particularly when you have to sell your labor to a company, right? So the only way, the number one cost for a company, any company, is the payment of labor. So what they do is, in order to assure maximum profits for their shareholders, they reduce the amount of pay that they give to their employees, right? So when you go into the workplace, you're always getting paid less than what your real value is. So if you get paid less than your real value, then that translates into your everyday life existence. It translates into, for example, stress, right? If we take a look at abuse within the family, whether it's domestic violence between couples or if it's child abuse, we know that one of the prime indicators, one of the prime predictors is financial stress. We know that the number one predictor of divorce is financial stress and job satisfaction. Here's what else we know. When it comes down to your quality of life, there are three most important, maybe two, most important predictors of your quality of life are job satisfaction and marital satisfaction. I guess that's two. So those two things, if you're not satisfied in those areas, your quality of life is going to be much less. So my question then is, why don't schools, educational establishments, why don't they teach us how to, one, find a relationship that's going to last the test of time, and two, how do we develop our financial freedom? Why is it we're not taught how to build a house? And by the way, here's how the house works. Okay, thank you, Jess. Right now, just a side note back to what Jess said, is that I've started grading papers in reverse order as when I've received them in email. So I'm just going one by one by one by one. Then I'm going to go into Blackboard and I'm going to grade those. So don't worry, everything's going to get graded, and it's going to be very fair. Like I said, I think there's only been 3 B's so far, which is 3 or 4 B's, which is nothing. No C's, no D's, nothing like that. So you can kind of rest assured that you submitted it. I'm going to be very fair with the grade. But let me get back to the financial house. All right. So the financial house works like this, and you're never taught this, but it is probably the most important lesson you're going to have. When you build your even at your age, the foundation of your house really is life insurance. It is term life, not whole life, not anything that develops cash value. You want to have a term policy. And at your age, you could probably, because here's what happens. We know for a fact that 250,000 people have died this year from a virus that didn't even exist a year ago. So you have 250,000 people that couldn't even predicted that their life was going to end because of a virus that originated in November, October, November. How would they know? How many people pass away on the Palmetto, right? They didn't predict that that was their day. On 9/11, 3,000 people went to work in the World Trade Center and 3,000 people perished. They didn't know that was going to be their last day. So the one thing that we do as financial planners is we like to make sure that the financial foundation of your house is built. And we start with the term insurance policy. Because one thing we know, even if you're 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, one day it's very likely you're going to get married, and it's likely that you're going to have children. So while you're young, you can get your insurance for a lot less money because you're healthier. So you get $250,000 or $500,000. You're paying $25 to $40 a month for this coverage that's going to last until you're 55 years old. And so if something happens to you, you know, the pressure of paying for that for a funeral, sorry to be negative, is not going to fall on somebody else. It'll be paid for by your life insurance. And or, you know, when you get older and something happens, your family is taken care of. So it's really, hey, good morning, Mariana. So it's very important to have that foundation. And that's where we start, all right? Me and my partner, Annette, we start right there at that point. The second thing we do, and this is where we get eaten alive, all right? The second place is that we tend to live off of debt. Now, even though the United States was built off of debt, that is selling debt so people can invest in the debt, and they get bonds, and then they take the bonds and they get an interest rate off those bonds every single month or every quarter or something like that. Don't worry about that. It's not important. But you're not building your life on bonds. It's not like you go out and you incur debt and then you sell your debt to somebody else who's going to pay you the interest rate that, you know, the banks are charging you for your credit card. So your first goal, especially at your age, is not to incur debt, right? There's a thing called, well, I won't get into it, but there's a thing called time value of money, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. But the value of every dollar that you lose now to interest rates is money that could have grown for you into the future. And so you really want to eliminate your debts right away. My grandfather was always about all flash, no cash. Well, I think my grandfather was right. I have one debt left. I think I owe $700. No, not $700. I owe $460 on one debt and $240 on another debt. And I'm paying those off Friday, and I'll be debt-free for the rest of my life. I'm just not going to carry debt. And I'll explain why here in a second. So once you have your debt taken care of, the next step is that you have to have 3 months of savings. You have to, right? And I know it's a big number. For some of us, it's really big. But here's the thing. All these people that I see in the news are clamoring, where is my stimulus check? Why didn't I get my stimulus check? I need that stimulus check. Well, you know, $1,200 is nice to get. I'm not going to lie. I would love to have $1,200 fall from the sky today. I did have $200 fall from the sky based upon some work I'm doing on the side, and I got some more coming in on Friday. I always have a little side hustle, baby. You better believe Shawn's always got some money coming in from somewhere. Almost every day I get paid something from somewhere. That's why I put up so much effort. That way I'm always at least viable, right? So you have this cash coming in, and people are dependent upon this. Good morning, Isa. They're interested in getting their stimulus check, but then we have 40 million people claim unemployment since April, and now they're like, oh, I haven't got my unemployment check. I can't survive. I'm going through stress. I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose my job. I've lost my job. I'm going to lose my car. I'm going to lose everything. Well, that's because we're not taught at the very beginning to put away 3 months worth of savings. We're not. When did your school ever teach you that? You should have 3 to 6 months put aside so that if calamity happens, an emergency happens, life goes on, right? And you don't have to be desperate. It is in the desperation that people experience that anomie and alienation. When you have anomie and alienation based upon those structural changes, and you don't have any money to fall back on, you now are going to be in a stressed out situation in which you're likely to behave in ways that you otherwise wouldn't behave. Either angry, upset, abusively, verbally, physically, or emotionally, but you're going to find yourself acting in ways that you typically wouldn't. And that is just, that is just dangerous. So, you want to build that 3 to 6 month house. The next thing you want to do, the next layer to the house as you move up towards the ceiling and the roof, is, if you're not investing money, if you don't have your life insurance, debt-free, 3 months, and then investing money so that it grows, man, you're throwing away money, right? You're throwing it away. It's not just that you have zero, but every month, every year that you don't put anything away, inflation goes up by 3%. So not only do you have zero, but the value of what you're earning decreases by 3%. So your goal has to be to beat 3% every single year, which is really easy to do, right? So then you want to go ahead and have investments. But, one of the things about investments is we tend to think of investments in stock markets, mutual funds, and I'll explain what a mutual fund here is. Well, I'll tell you what it is now. A stock is a share that you buy so you can have a piece of ownership in a company. So if you buy one share of Apple, right? You own one share of Apple. You own a very minuscule piece, but you own 1 in 10 million shares. So you have a little ownership, right? You can have Microsoft. I personally love NVIDIA. That's my golden goose. It's almost at $400 a share. I bought it at $100 in 2017. 400% return is always something that's going to make me happy. Because if I get 8 to 10% a year, I'm really happy. But I got a stock that's gone up 400%. What am I going to say? I can't get upset with that. But it took me a lot of homework to find that stock. Okay, so you can invest in one stock, buy multiple shares or a couple companies or whatever. Or if you don't know how to do it, there's a thing called a mutual fund. And a mutual fund is a bowl that holds individual shares of stocks. So, for example, let's say I like Apple's and I like Microsoft and I like Micron and I like NVIDIA. I can buy a mutual fund that will hold all these different large cap companies. Those would be large cap growth. And I can buy that and just put away $50, $100 a month into the mutual fund so that I spread out my risk. Because all you're doing with investment, all right, all an investment is minimizing risk, right? And by the way, not investing is a major risk. A lot of people say, well, if I put my money, I might lose it. You're going to lose money because inflation is always going to be around 3 or 4%. So by definition, you're losing money right off the top. So it's called opportunity risk. Do you want to take the opportunity to grow, or are you perfectly happy to just go ahead and lose what you have? Because it is going to happen, right? $100 in the year 1900 now is what, worth $1.50? So if you hold on to that dollar, that $100 for the next 20 years, it's only going to have the purchasing power maybe $40, maybe $50. So why not grow it at the higher rate than inflation? So boom, okay. The other thing where you want to invest is in yourself. Are you serious? When you're out using your credit card to buy a coffee at Starbucks, you just took away the opportunity to invest in yourself. 3 Starbucks, three coffees at Starbucks is enough to purchase a book in your passion, in your area of interest that you can use to make your life just a little bit stronger, just a little bit better. If you're not reading an hour to 2 hours every day, investing in your mind, this world is going to pass you by. You want to know why? Because what happens is, with all the trends, with all the social environmental cues changing as we speak, right? It's called environmental scanning. If you scan the environment, you're going to find that it's changing right before your very eyes. And if you're not reading everything possible on a daily basis to maximize your knowledge, to maximize your motivation, guess what's going to happen? You're setting yourself up to get run over by an institutional system that has no relationship to you. Right? Emil Durkheim said it. The institution is greater than the individual. The individual is not greater than the institution. How do I know that? Because you live in a capitalist enterprise. No matter what you do, you can't change capitalism. Capitalism existed before you, it'll exist after you, and you can't change it. All right? You can't change democracy. You can't change Christianity. Christianity existed long before you and will exist long after you. Why? Because institutions are bigger than individuals. So here's what's happening. The institutions are changing right before our very eyes, and we don't take enough time to read and expand our knowledge. Be a lifelong learner, which means invest in yourself. Invest in markets and invest in yourself. You do those two things, you're going to be one of the top 5% of the people in this nation, because no one's doing it, right? Most people haven't read a book in the last 5-10 years, unless they were mandated to do it because they were going to school. Right? So please, for your own sake, do that. The next step of the house is to save for your children, so their education or what have you. But the highest level, and the level that we take for granted the most, at the highest level of your house, baby, and I mean this, is to be self-employed. You might work for somebody else, and that's fine. Like I work at Miami-Dade College, but I got 3 different things going on a daily basis. I got 3 different things that I'm building simultaneously. I got my own company where I do life coaching. I do motivational speaking and training for corporations and companies, and I do research for companies and write technical reports like I did a week ago. And then the other thing I do is I do financial planning services for anybody who really needs it. I don't need the income, so I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm going to guide you into what you need rather than say, hey, why don't you do this or do this and do this. I don't need the money, so I don't need the commissions. I always do exactly what is right for the client, right? So that's another thing I do, and I do the professor stuff, and I write books. So I always got a little thing going on the side at all times, and I'm pulling them all together with Hope Works, right? By pulling them all together, then I can systematize my promotions. I can systematize how I market myself and how I market the company, and therefore I always have a stream. I'm about to start affiliate marketing through the website and all that. So essentially, by being self-employed, if the state of Florida decides that it's going to pass a law, because they can't fire me because I'm tenured, right? I have a tenured position. But what if they pass a law and they say, you know what, anybody over the age of 60, or say over the age of 65, we're going to have them check out so we can bring in a younger group of people. We'll give them a little, not a pension, but a buyout package. You know, I'm gone, because they wrote a law that changes my life without me asking. So the way I look at it is I always have to be prepared for whatever might happen. If I fall today and I'm laying on the ground tomorrow, I'm going to get up the next day and I'm going to have some way of generating income. So at the highest level, you know, you should be taking your passions, those things that drive you, and you should be constructing, even at your age, you should be constructing a way to generate revenue for your life. Why? Today it's 2020, right? It is June 30th, 2020. Come June 30th, 2040, 40% of the people in the United States are going to have to be self-employed. 40%, right? How many of you were trained to be self-employed? 1, maybe 2. We know right now only 3% of Americans are self-employed. That's how they make their living. 3%. Think, 20 years from now it's going to be 40%. As a matter of fact, here's another statistic for you. 30% of the jobs that exist today will not even be in existence in 20 years. They won't even exist anymore. And 30% of the jobs that will exist haven't even been imagined yet. How do you prepare for that? How do you get ready for that? Well, my answer is pretty easy. You build your own business around your passions, around your skills. You invest in your brain and learn everything you can possibly learn about it. I was talking to Laura Savio this morning, and she watched the video from yesterday, and she was saying, you know, the audio needs to be a little bit better. You have a microphone. I'm like, you know, I got a nice Blue Yeti, but I don't know how to connect it up. I just use the camera mic. She said, we need something just a little clearer, because I have to use captions so I can understand what you're saying. So I said, okay, let me go figure this out. So after because she had a question about homework or something, so I went ahead and I took a look at my OBS, which is where I stream from. I didn't know what an OBS was just 2 months ago. I didn't know how to do any kind of live stream, none of this. I didn't know how to, couldn't set up a camera, the whole nine. Forget about a microphone. And the equalizer, man, I haven't bought that yet. But I taught myself because I knew I was going to need it. And so when she said that it wasn't clear enough, I said, well, let me go ahead and see if I can figure this out in the next hour. And I did. And so for me, for you, it's nothing, right? I mean, you all know this stuff. But for me, I have to learn something new. And over here, I have a couple books on digital marketing, viral hacking, that I'm starting to read so I can master that, just so I can be in financial control of my life. I like MDC, but I don't like the state having control of me. I'm not that way. I mean, I make good money, but I didn't always make good money. I had to earn my way up there. But I never trust economic systems because they are greater than me. And I have very little power to control it. But I can control what? I can control my effort. I can control my dedication. I can control my habits. And in doing that, I can build my own financial house. When I came out of my marriage, my most recent marriage, I mean, I faced financial devastation. I wanted to make sure that my kids never had to want for anything. So I make sure that the alimony and child support I pay is more than enough that they can survive and be happy. Me, I take the hit. But when I took the hit, I said, wait a minute, you're too smart. You can figure this out. So I've been working, and now I've got it all figured out. So when the semester ends, man, you just stay tuned because things are about to go pop, 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 right? Why? All I'm saying is this. I never give you any guidance that I don't do for myself. I will never give you advice that I don't turn internally, because that'd be kind of fraudulent, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be kind of a lie if I asked you to do something that I myself won't do? I read every day. Every day I read. I read the Bible. That's how I start the day. Then I read something on how to create this business that I'm trying to do. This afternoon I'm meeting with my web advisor. Then later this afternoon I'm meeting with the people that are going to be doing my promoting so I can get more subscribers and stuff like that. But in any case, you can do it too. But the difference is I do it so that I can create some stability in my current life. But baby, you got to do it because that's going to be your life. You know, I don't have to do it. You might have to do it. Right? So let's start here. Get your life insurance. Get that. I'm not wishing you death, but what you want is 35 years. And then, because you eliminated your debt, let's say you pay $200 a month in debt. What if instead you invested that money? Now all of a sudden, if every single month you put, let's say $250, you put away $250 every single month, right? Every single month. And you start at the age of 21. And you do it till you're 40. From the age of 21 to 40, you put away $250 a month, which would be what? $3,000 a year times 20 years is $60,000. So if you invest $60,000 over the next 20 years, from 21 till 41, all right? When you retire at the age of 65, if you get an 8 to 10% return on your money, just $250 a month, you're going to have roughly $2 million when you get to 65 years old. $2 million. Right? Who taught you that? Nobody. Did anybody ever teach you what this term called the time value of money? Time value of money is this. Every dollar you have has a future value. Your job is to grow that future value as best you can. Okay? I'll get to that in a second, Isabel. I'm grading everything as it comes in, and I still got 250 papers to grade. I graded 120 yesterday, so that tells you where things are. Check with me maybe on Thursday, but I'm rolling through them. Okay, time value of money. Here's what that means. All right, if I put away $100 today, and I get an 8% return, which is very easy to get, then over the next 20 years, it's going to grow. Write this down. There's two rules I'm going to teach you today. One is the rule of 72. The other one is the rule of 116. I don't know why everyone's leaving, man. We're down to 12 people, and this is the stuff that you really need for your life. But that's okay, whatever. I'm glad you're here. That's the most important thing. Okay. The rule of 72 is this. Now, banks understand this. I'm going to explain banks in a second. Rule of 72 is if you divide 72 by the rate of return that you get in your portfolio, say 10% in your mutual fund portfolio, that means every 7.2 years your money is going to double. Rule of 72 is how long does it take to double your money. The rule of 116 is how long does it take to triple your money. All right? So if we want to grow what we have, all right, what you need to do is you need to strive for 10%. Because watch this. This is incredible. So say the time value of money. Say you give your baby $10,000 at birth and you never again give them anything. Nothing. Food. Right? You're going to give them food and diapers and clothes and stuff like that. But as far as money to invest, you never do it again. So at birth, You give them $10,000 and they get a diversified portfolio. Don't worry about what that means. You get a mutual fund and they get a 10% return until they're 65. On average, it'll go up and down. That's fine. Going up and down is not a bad thing. So the rule of 116 is it's going to triple every 11 years. So let me just make it easy and say it triples every 10. It's easier to do the math in my head. So if you give this baby $10,000 at birth, by the time they're 10 years old, Emily, it's called the rule of 72 and the rule of 116. And what you do is you divide those numbers by the percentage interest rate that you get, right? So if you get a 10% rate of return, that goes into 72 7.2 times. So your money doubles in 7 years. If it goes into 116, it doubles every 11 years, right? So it's just a rule of thumb. It's not exact, but it's very, very close. So $10,000 at birth is now worth $30,000 at the age of 10. I don't know how many of you have $30,000 sitting around, but can you imagine being 10 years old with $30,000? It'd be pretty nice, right? Now, at 20, that $30,000 is worth $90,000. That'd pay for your college education at MDC. Take that $90,000 by the age of 30, it's $270,000. By the age of 40, you're welcome. By the age of 40, that's $810,000. By 50, it's $2.4 million. By 60, it is $7.2 million. By the age of 70, it's $21 million. See how it works? So you never have to put anything in again, but that 10% return is going to take you to a life that you can't even imagine. You will never have to be dependent upon another human being, right? Now, say you don't have anything right now. There's a thing called dollar cost average, which is at $250 a month. You put away your little $250 a month, even $150, I don't care. Just get started. Your target should be $250 a month, but start with $25 if you have to. Get your term policy for $25 a month, put away $25 a month in investments, and let it grow. Because what you want to do is you want to have your investments be worth 3 or 4 times more than your life insurance when it expires, right? So that you are self-funding your own life. And so if you put away $250 a month from 21 until 40, we know it's going to be worth about $2.4 million when you turn 65. All right? So you don't have to have $10,000 at birth. There's ways to get there, but you just have to be disciplined in doing it. My question is, why aren't you taught that? Why aren't you taught that when you go to the bank and you put your money in a savings account, you get, let's just say you get 1%, which is higher than what you do get. I think it's 0.1 right now, but let's say you get 1%. That means it's going to take 72 years for you to double your money. The problem is your money's never going to double. Here's the reason why. So if you have $10,000 in the bank, you're going to get, what, $100 a year in terms of interest? $10,000 sitting there idly to get $100? Are you crazy? I can find $100 on the ground. I basically do. I find about $200, $300 a year on the ground. Quarters, nickels, dimes. Every once in a while I find a $20 bill. Yes, I know. The only thing you want for a savings account is for your emergency fund. That's all. Right? Once you have that, then you start investing that both in your mind and in your investment account. But here's what happens. So you get 1% return. Well, every month you got to pay a maintenance fee. Every month, like if you get a security fee, I found out at my bank I have to pay a security fee, which is protect me from identity theft. Then I have a fee so I don't overdraft my account. If you do bounce a check, it's $35. If you want a printout of your account, it's $35 if you want to go back for 1 year and get a printout. $35 for them to make 10 pages of copies. And let's see, what does that come out to be? $3.50 per page for a piece of paper? Okay, that's fair enough. You want to wire money to somebody? You go there and you wire. I say you start saving, I say as soon as possible. And you do what's comfortable. You start with 25, right, which is probably basically the minimum that you can put into a mutual fund. Then you move up to 50 when it gets more comfortable. Then you move up to 100. You just do it because you'll notice that you won't even feel it disappearing. You won't feel it at all. But you go back to the bank, they take your money, right, and then they lend it to somebody else. In a credit card, they lend your $100 to someone else, and then what happens? They get 30% return off of your money that they're giving you 1%, right? And they keep doing it over and over again. So therefore, they're making 30% off of all these people who qualify. Then you buy a house, you're paying 5% return. If you buy a car, you're paying 12%. So they loan you the money, right? They're loaning you their money that you put in. They're giving you 1%, and then they loan it out, and then you pay all these fees. So you get $100 in interest. By the time you get to the end of the year, you pay $300, $400, $500 in fees for them to hold your money. Go to an ATM machine out of your network, right? $3 to $5 to get my money out of an ATM machine, but because it's not a part of Bank of America, I got to pay. Are you serious? I got to pay $3 because it's that community bank. Maybe I can't get to my bank, right? But I got to pay $3. You do that 4 times a month, right? 5 times a month. That's $15 that you just spent. Then you add in what you're spending over at Passion, which is fine. I like Passion. You don't have to do it every day, but you know that stuff starts to eat away because you can make coffee at home. You know, you can get some P-I-L-O-N, and put that in that little silver coffee pot. You got 3 cups of coffee that's going to knock you out. So you just drink 1 in the morning, 1 in the middle of the day, 1 in the afternoon. What did it cost you? 20 cents to have 3 cups of coffee, but you're going to go spend it over at Starbucks for $4, $4.50 for a cafe latte with cinnamon sprinkles on the whipped cream or whatever it's called. That's great. But you just lost $4.30. Multiply that by 30 days a month. Now that's 120 plus 12. That's $132 you just spent that you could have invested in yourself, right? I'm not saying don't have fun. You can have fun. But you got to pay yourself first, baby, because they're not going to pay you first. If you don't put yourself first, trust me, the corporations aren't. And here's the beauty of how this system works. The economic institution, the reason they don't teach you this stuff in school is really simple. Is because our education institution is designed for you to learn how to take a multiple choice exam. And when you take the multiple choice exam, you get prepared to take the FCAT or whatever that exam is called to see if you're proficient in reading and in math. And what we know in Florida, 52% are proficient in math and 55% are proficient in reading. So we're not even doing that particularly well. So that's what we're training you for, is to take a multiple choice test. Well, what we're really training you for is to prepare you under an old industrial model from the 1800s. Our mass education system was designed to put people into the workforce, in a industrial workforce, right, where they worked in factories and things like that. So mass education, mass production went hand in hand. And what happened was our classes became bigger, teachers got paid less because all we were doing was producing employees. Hello everyone. Hey Samuel. Talking about some of the same stuff as yesterday, but it doesn't hurt to hear it again. Yep. Yeah, that's why, hey, when you get a free promo, that's nice. They bring you in and they got you later, right? And they got you later. But that's good. Don't let them charge you any interest. Stay away from that interest. But like for example, when you save, when you go to Publix and at the bottom of your receipt, it says you save $5.07 by shopping at Publix today. If you spend that $5 somewhere else, you didn't save anything. You just transferred it to another form. You take that $5, put it in your jar. You find money on the ground, put it in a jar. You get change and coins, put it in a jar. If you only use a debit card for your purchases, then here's what you do. Go to Acorns. It's an app. Go to Acorns and they'll round it up so that you can save. So if you spend $1.25, they'll put 75 cents into an account and they'll put it in the marketplace. So there's things that you can do to grow your own wealth, but you never taught this. And the reason is simple, is because if you don't know how to control your own financial life, you always have to work for somebody else. And our economic institution, by definition, is designed for you to work for somebody else. The capitalist system is designed for you to purchase private property, and typically you pay interest on the purchase of that property, right? And the private property that the corporations own is the kind that appreciates in value. Most of the property that you own, cars, etc., Acorns is nice, right, Samuel? Most of the property that you own depreciates. That beautiful $100 dress you bought, oh, that's nice. A year later, you can't get $5 for it. Maybe on eBay, you might be able to get 10 or 15. That Guess bathing suit that you bought for $75, try to sell that next year. That property's worth almost nothing. And your house, say you buy a house. You can't buy a house for an investment. You buy a house to live in, because the average rate of return for a house, if you're looking at it as an investment, is about 3 to 5%. So if I can get 10% by putting in the market, I usually get about 27% a year. So if I can get 10% a year by putting in the market, but I can only get 3% by buying a house, I'm losing 7%. So you buy it, the house, to live in, not as an investment. You're making a big mistake. All right. So moving on, the time value of money is the critical component. All right. And the reason you don't know this is simply because the institution wants you to work for the institution. That's really simple. All right. Now watch this. Now we decide that we're going to invest, which I think you should. And by the way, any of you who want any assistance with the insurance, with the debt reduction, with investing, etc., my partner Annette, she will help you. I really can't do it directly, but I can. I mean, I can guide you. I can't give you any advice. So if you write to Shawn.hopeworks@gmail.com, I can help you. But I can also help your family. I can help your friends. I'm always in the business for referrals, and like I said before, I don't have to sell anything because I have enough income that I don't need this to sell you anything. I won't. And Annette, she's just the most fantastic person I know here in Miami. So, given all that, yeah, I use Robinhood. Robinhood's okay. I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, it's free stock picking. The problem with all of them is this: is that you don't know what you're looking at when you're investing in stocks, right? It's great to get commission-free trades, no doubt about it. But most people, when they invest, and this is really important, most people, when they invest, they hear what other people said about something. They say, ooh, artificial intelligence, maybe I better go out and get Micron, right? Because they're doing the data storage. Look, here's what happens. It's called odd lot theory. ODD, here, I'll write it down. Odd lot theory. All right. And listen to this, Alejandro, okay? You'll like this. God dang it. I swear this Wi-Fi is driving me crazy. Odd lot theory. All right. Here's what odd lots theory is. Odd lots theory, okay, let me step back for a second. If you go back to 1929, the stock market has gone up on average 11% per year, going back basically 100 years, right? 11% a year would make you filthy wealthy if you had the perseverance and fortitude, mental fortitude, not to jump in and out, right? But the average investor, the individual, like you and me, the average return for the individual investor is 1%. The market goes up 11%, but the individual investor gets a 1% return. And the question is, well, how is that possible? How is it possible for the individual only to get a 1% return when the market goes up 11%? And the answer is, it's an odd lots theory, and that is this. People, individuals, invest off of emotions. The great big mutual fund companies, the ones that are managed by professionals who have a very specific buy-sell strategy, what they do is they wait for you to get scared, and when you sell off, they buy. And when it's going up, they purchase in smaller amounts. They have to purchase because of the nature of their objectives, but they just sit back with all that cash, and when it goes down and you're running for the hills, they're just buying cheap, cheap, cheap. So when it comes back up, they have all the momentum, and then you're afraid to get back in, right? Your job is to erase that risk of loss and gain. So the best thing that you can do is, A, you got to have a sell strategy. Robinhood is fine, but with no sell strategy, you're going to lose, right? Because you don't know how high it's going to go, and you don't know how far it's going to fall. So if you don't have a buy-sell strategy, especially a sell strategy, you sit there holding your losers. And even your winners become losers, right? So the thing about buying individual stocks is, and here's my suggestion. This is a financial planner. Now, I had multimillionaire people giving me millions of dollars to invest their money back in, when I worked at Merrill Lynch and again at MetLife. I used to handle a lot of money. And one of the things that, one of the reasons I left is I had clients back then, this is before 2008 when the market crashed. 2006, 2007, they're begging me, put me in more international mutual funds, put me in more international stocks, put me more into growth, put me more in small cap. And I'm like, and I'm looking at the market, the line, the regression line, which means there's an average return over time. And that market was so high over the average, I'm telling you, I said, you know what, there's going to be a huge correction. And when that market comes down, it's going to come down hard and it's going to come down fast. I said, no, I'm not going to purchase these for you. They said, but you're working for me. I said, no, I'm working to protect you from risk. And my job is not to buy whatever you say. My job is to protect you from loss and to make sure that you maximize your gains over the long term. And they just kept clamoring, please, please do it, I'll find someone else. I said, then find someone else. I got to a point, I said, you know what, I'll just go back to being a professor. And sure enough, when I went back, that market dropped 60%. And now they're calling me on my private phone saying, can you help me, I said, no, I can't help you. You didn't want to listen when I was telling you what you needed to do. Instead, you want to go pursue these hot things, right? So when it fell, the more they sold. And they lost tons, right? So Alejandro, I think Robinhood is good, but I think it comes later, right? I think that it's good because it's commission free, but it's not a very robust platform. They don't give you enough information, in my opinion, to make really informed decisions. And if you're buying individual stocks, you might be taught to look at a PE ratio, price divided by earnings, but that's not the best one to look at. Why aren't you taught to look at the company? Why aren't they teaching you about marginal returns, right? Return on investment, return on equity. Because you look at those numbers, that's what's telling you to buy or not buy. Dividend payout ratio. You're not being taught that, so now you're really just guessing. And on top of it, if you're not using some kind of technical analysis alongside of your fundamental analysis, you're sitting duck. So yeah, I like Robinhood. I do like it. I've used it. I had issues with them on something else with their with the quality of transferring money in and out. But other than that, yeah, it's fine. I still believe you should get mutual funds. But then again, if any of you ever want to have a conversation directly about this, again, Shawn.hopeworks@gmail.com. I'll talk to you about it all day. It's one of my favorite things. Now, this odd lots theory, that is the key for your understanding. Buy low, sell high. But even more important is the idea of dollar cost averaging. And here's why I think this is all super important. And this has everything to do with social environment. Most of you, when you wrote your paper on the two Escobars, you identified that economics was really the root of most of the social problems in existence, right? And I know the social environment. But those institutions work together so that you end up selling your labor to somebody else. Okay. If you build your financial house first, if you do that, you're now taking back control of your own life. All right? And my greatest fear is really this, is that we can't imagine what this world is going to look like in 20 years. We can't imagine what it's going to look like in 2 years. Between artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, a coronavirus, changes in social behavior, social distancing, we have changing in ethnic patterns, globalization. We have all kinds of things going on. We're not going to be able to imagine what it's going to look like in 2-3 years. But we can imagine this. We can imagine that you can start developing your business, the one that works for you, so that you're happy with your life. And the other thing that we can also do is you can start putting some money aside. Who asked me that question? Isa, was that you? Yeah. Oh, Isa, you start saving for retirement right away, right? Because the younger you are, the more time you have. Remember, investing is about time, the time value of money. So you want to get it in there and get it growing as young as possible. Here's what I would do, right? If I were you guys, if I was you. And this, what am I talking about if I was you? This is what I do. And when I learned about mutual funds in 1992 from my first father-in-law, I wasn't married yet, but we were very close. He was teaching me how the mutual funds work. I kind of had an idea, but I'd never really heard of mutual funds. I heard of stocks, but not mutual funds. And so he was teaching me. So I bought a no-load mutual fund, which just basically means you don't pay a commission up front, right? There's all kinds of different ways of doing it. I won't even get into it. It's too much. But I bought a no-load. It was a Janus fund for $50. He said, you won't even miss the money, and he was right. I was only making $7.50 a month, and $50, I didn't even miss it being gone because I made adjustments, right? I didn't eat at McDonald's as much. I, ate one fewer pizza. Didn't have any juice. You know what I'm saying? So I cut back on juice. Everything was fine. I didn't even miss it. And then I got my first statement, and it said I had $50.36. And I started crying, and he's like, well, what's wrong, Shawn? I said, I've never earned money without working for it. It's the first time I've ever seen something change for me where I didn't have to work. It's called passive income. What you want to do is you want to develop as many passive streams of income as you can. The wealthiest people say that you should have 7 passive streams, which is basically where you don't work. You work initially, but then you set it up so that it makes money on its own moving forward. Stocks is one way to do it. Mutual funds is another way to do it. And so when I got that first 36 cents, I said, oh my God, what if I put in 100? And then I got to a point where I just said, you know what? Every month, I'm putting 20% away right off the top. I'm going to invest 20%. Then I have 80% to pay my bills and to have fun. So if my bills are only, let's just say, taking up 60% of my money, and I spend 20% on investments, that gives me 20% to play with. When you make $10,000 a month, 20%, $2,000 just to play with, are you serious? My bills aren't even that much. So I don't make $10,000 a month either. Well, I don't know, I make pretty good when you get all the different streams coming in. But the thing is that the more passive income you have, the stronger your foundation is. And the stronger your foundation, the less dependent you are upon other people. And the beauty is, when you have financial strength, your quality of life gets better, your marriage gets better, your children are calmer, and things like domestic violence and child abuse and arguing and conflict, all those things start to dissipate. Why? Because you took away the most major form of stress that most people have in their life. You do, right? So here's what I said. Right off the top, 20%. Boom! Some goes to your emergency savings, some goes to your life insurance, and then the rest goes into your investments, right? Then, pay your bills. Get rid of all your debts, pay your bills. The other 20%, 30%, if you have more left over, go have fun. Enjoy yourself, right? And don't even look back. That's how I do it. And now that I'm doing that again, oh my God, my stress has disappeared. I'm a new person. I'm always alive and vivacious. And it was just a change of going back to what I knew. Oh, by the way, so between 1993 and 1999, I went from having $0, nothing saved, nothing invested, to $150,000, all within a 5.5-year period, right? A lot of it was the time value of money. I bought a house and the equity went up pretty quickly. My retirement, my God, if you're in a company that gives you a 501, an investment account, right? Then what happens is, if they match it, if you're not putting the maximum in, that's free money. You're just throwing it away. You're just throwing it away. So if they say put in 3% and they're going to match for another 3%, that's 6% a month that you're putting away. Boom, right off the top. Then that only means saving 14% out of your cash money. Listen to the old man. Listen to the old man for a second. If you don't want the social environment to control you, live by that 20% rule. Live by it. And 30 years from now, you can go ahead and call me up, and I'll still be around, I think. I hope so. But give me a call and say, you know what? I just crossed over, 30 years from now, I just hit $1 million using your 20% rule. I just want to say thank you, right? I'm happily married. I have 2 great kids, etc., etc. Try it. And here's the other part. We don't talk about this in investing. We definitely don't talk about this in class. But I'm going to talk about it because it's important. It's ultimately important. It's all about social environment. For you to build that business, you have to have your team. You've got to have a team of people that believe you and support you. Because with that team, you can stand up and rise up to higher levels. Have your team, have a person on your team. When you need emotional support, can I cry on your shoulders? Ask them ahead of time before you get to the point where you need it, and then they say, I'm not interested in that. Have somebody who might have your financial back, right? Someone who might invest in your technology so that you can expand, right? Have somebody who's going to go golf with you so you can debrief, right? And the most important thing you can do as far as relationships, put those people in place. And like Alfred Schultz said of, ironically, Starbucks, what you need is to surround yourself with a team of people who are smarter than you. So you do what you're best at and let them go do what they're best at, and guess what happens? Bam, all of a sudden you start finding yourself in places that you never imagined before, right? 80-20, so that in the future, 20% of your income comes from work and 80% comes from what you've invested. Right now it's going to be the reverse, but then it's going to be something different. Build your team. And here's the key, baby. Here's the key. Pick the right marital partner. You better, don't trick yourself into thinking you're with the right person. To me, marriage is spectacular. It is potentially, I can't think of anything that would be better than me being allowed to spend the rest of my life with somebody who I absolutely love and adore. How can it get any better than that, right? But man, if you pick somebody because everyone's saying, oh, you're a great couple, but you know in your heart it's not right, and she knows it's not right, or he knows it's not right, or you both know it's not right, don't do it. Because when it comes to money, if you have financial differences, right, and your philosophy about money, brothers and sisters, you better believe it's going to play itself out in your relationship. And when that starts to happen, we know, don't we know, the number one predictor of divorce is not infidelity. Infidelity is the outcome of financial stress. The number one predictor is financial stress. So if you have a different philosophy, or you're not building your financial house, the odds of you making it have become much shorter. A lot of people won't even get married, and I'm not even going to try this. Forget about it. I think you lose out. And I also think that not having children is a mistake, because there's nothing I have done that has been more rewarding than having my two daughters. And, you know, that's irreplaceable. But the reason why they've had a really good life is because I was able to take care of my financial life, coming from nothing to having something. And now I've recalibrated after coming out of not such a great marriage. Now I've recalibrated and I'm back on the rise. And now all I want to do is share with people, others, how to manifest their destiny within the social environment in which they operate. So if any of you are interested in joining our entrepreneurship club in the 50-day challenge, which I'm kicking off tomorrow, or if you're interested in learning more about, you know, building your financial house, hey, hit me up, Shawn.hopeworks@gmail.com, and we can make that happen. I really hope I didn't talk about diversification. I didn't talk about, you know, precise investment strategies, sell strategies. Those are things you have to develop. I do suggest you start with mutual funds, because study how those managers make their decision, because they're getting paid millions of dollars. They want you to do well, the managers do. So study how they make their decisions, and then start making your own decisions based upon learning from experts, right? But at the end of the day, this really is something that you need to pay attention to, because when you retire, when you're my age, there's no guarantee that Social Security is going to be there as a safety net. There's no guarantee, it's probably not going to happen, that there's going to be pensions at companies that you work for. So if there's no Social Security and there's no pensions, how are you going to survive? Who's going to take care of you? Especially now that people are getting married and having kids, who's going to take care of you? You better take care of you. And it's not too late. Start early. Do as much as you can. Get to a point where it's comfortable doing the 80-20 rule. And baby, let me tell you what. You call me in 30 years and let me know how it went. And I will say, you are welcome for that lesson. Hook me up. Talk to you soon. Oh, the announcement about class. No final exam. Done. You're not going to have one. No final exam. All I want is everything that was supposed to be submitted Submit it by Sunday, July 5th, so I can spend a couple days grading it. If you're behind and you haven't submitted certain types of things, submit it by Sunday, all right, and I'm going to grade it. But at this point, you've done enough that I can gauge if you're learning, if you've done something. It's been a very crazy semester with the coronavirus, with trying to get used to technology, etc. So I'm not going to punish you one way or another. Let's just go ahead and make a nice, smooth transition. And hopefully, you will keep in contact with me once the semester ends through either WhatsApp. You have my text. I lost my phone, but I'll get a new phone for HopeWorks or whatever. And then we can just keep moving everything forward, because I really am interested in seeing what happens to you in the future. If you want to share HopeWorks with Shawn Schwaner, the YouTube page, I sure would appreciate it. Share it and ask people to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because I want to use this vehicle moving forward. I think it's a very powerful one. And I just have a message that I want to share. At this age, there's stuff that I want to do, and it's time for me to do it. And I've appreciated all of your support along the way. And hopefully at this point, you have learned something that was worthwhile in this class, as well as I'll be making some announcements through the week, and I'm going to make an actual professional video covering a lot of this, but it's going to have a little bit more of the in-depth stuff. But in any case, you want to control your life within the social environment that's shifting and changing? Follow the 80-20 rule. Let the time value of money carry you. Don't invest off of emotions. Invest off of a rational strategy. Eliminate those emotions, and I'll tell you what, you will live a very independent life, and you'll have financial independence. Love y'all. Boom. Have a great day. See you Friday, 5 o'clock.